Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new album by the one and only Paul Weller. It's called On Sunset. So I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then show you my vinyl copies and CD versions of the album, and then going through each of the album songs in detail. So this is Paul Weller's 14th solo studio album, like I said, just released on Friday there. It follows hot off the heels of 2018 album True Meanings, which was quite a different album for Weller. It was a much more mellow, much more acoustic sort of fare. However, for this album he kind of returns to the same sort of style of Sans pattern and that kind of revolution in a more sort of fully formed sort of sound. But this album I feel sort of more focuses on kind of soul music, has that sort of edge to it. Now since True Meanings came out, he has re-signed to the Polydor label, who notably he was with up until the Style Council's last album, Confessions of a Pop Group, and it was actually Polydor who dropped the Style Council after refusing to release the house album Modernism A New Decade. So he's back with Polydor because he says he was impressed at their roster of new and up and coming acts. So far, the critical response to this album has been, I would say, overwhelmingly positive. I've seen a lot of 4 and 5-star reviews of it going around. I must say that I'm hopeful that it will give Weller another well-deserved #1 album. He's not had a #1 album since, I think, Sonic Kicks in 2012. So it has been a little while, but I do think that this one does stand a pretty good chance of getting to #1. So I will try to show you my vinyl copy and also the CD. I've got the deluxe CD of it here, which comes with 5 bonus tracks, and those are Fourth Dimension, which is a kind of an experimental, instrumental piece, song called Plowman, which is a kind of quite fun, little country folk song. However, I'm glad it was just a bonus track. Doesn't really fit with the rest of the album. And then a song called I'll Think of Something, which to me sounds like a sort of a leftover from True Meanings, has the same sort of feel. And then you get a orchestra mix of On Sunset and an instrumental version of Baptiste there. And this is really nicely packaged. It's sort of a little book here, so you get a lot of nice pictures in it. A lot of Weller on here, on his last couple of albums he hasn't really featured too much on the artwork. Well, actually no, I take that back. He's on the cover of True Meanings, of course. I think there's a wee spread of him in Kind of Revolution as well. But yeah, looking great in this wee book here, and then you get all the credits. And that, so yeah, really nice. And then the CD is just in the back there. And the vinyl, this is the web store exclusive, which is on a sort of pink vinyl. So that's the cover. I must say, I'm not crazy about this artwork. When it first came out, I kind of thought this was more like a placeholder sort of artwork, kind of thing, something that they put up on the pre-orders before the actual cover is sort of revealed. However, this turned out to be the actual cover, and I must say I think it's one of his weakest album covers. Yeah, probably the worst one I think he's done, to be fair. I mean, the colours are nice on it, but there's just not really that creative, not that visually striking. There's the gatefold though. I mean, maybe even that would have been a much better cover with him on it. And then you get the credits there to all the songs. The inner sleeves are really nice to this though. You get all the lyrics there, and then again just more photos of Weller. And this, as I said, is on a lovely pink vinyl there. But it is, quite strange to see him back on Polydor, after being on, I think he was on Parlophone for so many years. That's slightly strange. And the other inner sleeve looks like this, which again, similar sort of design, just more lyrics and more photos. Yeah, so that's the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs. So there are only 10 tracks on the album, so I will score each track out at 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. First song up is one of my favourites on the album actually. It's called Mirror Ball, and this song apparently began live as a B-side for the True Meanings album, and I'm not sure whether he had the whole song recorded or maybe was just working on it, where he considered it for a B-side. But I'm so glad that he thankfully gave this 7-minute epic Pride of Place as the opener on this album. I mean, it begins conventionally enough. I mean, you've got a nice piano, nice vocal, but I love the way the song builds up. It starts off very quiet and and like some kind of like background synths like going on, and like then like again it just sort of like builds like and develops. The lyrics apparently are sort of celebrating like the dance floor and like sort of like the culture like of like going like to clubs and stuff like throughout the times, like sort of like from like sort of like 1920s ballrooms to like the northern soul scene like of the 70s, like to today's sort of like techno clubs and that. And like yeah, I mean like again like the song develops really well. In the middle though, it goes into this very sort of like avant-garde like sort of sound collage, like which was a direction perhaps hinted at like on his release earlier this year, an EP called In Another Room, which was very avant-garde. I haven't got it, like I never bothered to buy it because it's not really my thing, that. But this song kind of like goes in like that direction like for like a minute, like in like the middle of it, and then suddenly it just sort of comes back again, and like again it's a bit more like intense, and yeah, it just sounds really refreshed and really like revived like after that. So for me, Mirrorball, a really great song. Yeah, an easy 10 out of 10. Next up is called Baptiste, which is a strong and soulful number. This one driven by guitars and Hammond organ, which were played respectively by the original Jam member Steve Brooks, who was like in like Jam like way back like in like the early days before they made it big, and his style council pal Mick Talbot plays Hammond organ like on this song. So yeah, it's really sort of like a like I wouldn't say like family affair, but sort of like a lot of people like who've been like with Weller like for many years like come together like on this song. And yeah, the riff on this, it reminds me a bit of like a slightly toned down Woodcutter's Son. It's got that similar kind of chugging, like sort of like momentous like feeling to it. And Weller's described this song like as a celebration of soul music's universality. And yeah, I think it's a really good song. This, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, next up is called Old Father Time, which is a song which I've heard sort of singled out like as a highlight on the album, but for me it isn't one of the ones which stands out as much. I mean, it's still very good. It starts off with a really good like piano motif, and it's pretty upbeat, this song. It's quite a fun little track. Just for me, the melody doesn't quite stand out as much. Lyrically, it is kind of sort of concerns like aging and like how like one's perception changes like throughout like the years. And I do quite like the ending like of like the song, like where like it's like it kind of like it like where it's like a false ending, like, and like it sort of stops and then it suddenly comes back in, and the track eventually like finds its groove. Like we get some really like sort of like euphoric like whoops and ways like from Weller, like as like he sort of like sings like the phase out like of this song. So yeah, it's quite fun, and I would overall give it an 8 out of 10. Other things I've never done. The next track up is called Village, which was the main single from the album. It is a lovely, lovely song, this, and like yeah, like it's been getting a lot of airplay here in the UK. And like yeah, it's just a really nice track. I think it's like lyrically very good. It sees a contented Weller, very happy like with like his place like in the world. He sings like, not a thing I'd change if I could. I'm happy here in my neighbourhood. Again, you've got some really nice delicate like organ work from Mick Talbot, and I think it's just a really pleasant, really sort of soulful little song, this, and I would yeah give it a full 10 out of 10. I do think it is a really nice song. Next up is called More, which was another one of the singles issued from the album slightly later on, and it's kind of the foundation of this like is a solid like riff, but like, then like as like the song goes on, Weller really throws everything like on the kitchen sink like to like this song, including like a verse like sung in French, and then like an extended outro which features all manner of things like strings, organ, brass, guitar, you name it, and like there's everything like on this song. But the good thing is, it doesn't sound a mess. Like, I think like with all that on it, it would just sound like a blizzard like of sound. Like, whereas this, like it kind of like everything sort of like works against each other, which is like really well. Also have to mention the guitar solo like on the end of this is played by Josh McClory, who was in a band called The Stripes. Like they unfortunately like broke up. Like he I think played on the Kind Revolution album like as well. And lyrically this song's very good as well. It sort of like talks about the culture like of instant gratification and like always wanting more from life, and how ultimately this is not a sort of like a fulfilling way to live like your life. I think the song's really great. I think it's really atmospheric, and although it isn't one I instantly loved like when it first came out, I thought it's a bit too long. This, it has certainly grown on me, and I would now give it a 9 out of 10. I'm so sad. Okay, next song up is the title track, On Sunset, which was inspired by Weller revisiting the Sunset Strip, like in America, because I think that's where his son Nathan lives now, and Weller was sort of like reminiscing about like the early jam tours there, and like sort of talking about like on this song like how like the place has changed. And like he sort of sings like all the world I knew has all gone by, all the places we used to go belong to us at times, someone else's life. So yeah, it's kind of like about like how like somewhere like can change like almost beyond like recognition really. Musically it's quite upbeat, you've got some really nice like acoustic guitar work on it, plus an interesting middle section where you get more flutes and brass, get really like intricately arranged. I believe that was all done by Hannah Peel, who was the arranger like on the last album True Meanings. I would say with this song though, it is a bit long, and that's what lets it down. It's 6.5 minutes this, and to be honest with you, it's not really a 6.5 minute song, to be fair. Like there's not enough like actual like sort of like song there. Like it kind of like it's dragged out a little bit towards like the end, and I would also say I do slightly prefer the orchestral mix of it like on this album. Like it's a bit more, I don't know, it just feels a little bit more heartfelt, like a little bit more like meaningful, like on like the like orchestral mix. But it's still a very good song though, and I would give it a 8 out of 10 for that one.
Equinamity shows to try and
next up is called Equinamity, which is a again a unique song. It's kind of got I'd say like a music hall like sort of feeling to it. It sort of feels something like say Ray Davies done like a lot like in like the 60s songs like Mr. Pleasant and Tin Soldier Man, or even like say something like Maxwell's Silver Hammer like by the Beatles and that. And it is a style which Well has sort of done before a little bit, and things like Brand New Toy and Here's the Good News. But it is a fun track, this. It features Slade's Jim Lee playing a really nice little violin solo. And lyrically, it's maybe a bit naive, this song. He sort of states that gentleness and kindness like is what like the world needs now. So it's quite, yeah, like idealistic like in some ways, like, but still a good little song there though. So yeah, I would give that one an 8 out of 10.
take that hit, turn the world around.
The next one up is another favourite of mine on the album. It's called Walking, which is a more upbeat song. This again, it's another piano-led song. Like I don't think that it's a single track like on here, like where like an electric guitar like is like the lead instrument. To be fair, like it's all either like acoustic, like or like piano. But yeah, this is a like more like upbeat piano-led song. Reminds me a bit of Mr. Blue Sky, like kind of like especially like the introduction, like where like get like the chugging piano, like and then like little drum roll to ease you in to the song. But yeah, it's a really good uplifting track, kind of about exploring and appreciating the natural world. He sings, leave your baggage at the door, you won't need it anymore because we're out walking. And musically, as I said, a toe tapping track is really what we need like at this point, like on the album, like after quite a few slow and more mellower songs. Plus I love the way that halfway through it changes tempo. It just turns up a notch a little bit, this track, and then you've got some great saxophone playing as well from Lee Thomas, who is a saxophone player in Madness. So yeah, a lot of guest stars like on this album, like as well, as to be said. And yeah, Walking for me is a highlight on the album, and I would give a 10 out of 10 to. And then the next track up is Earthbeat, which was the first single from the album, at least I think way back like in February, like when like the album was announced. And I must say, when it first came out, I wasn't too fond of it. I think it was quite I guess maybe like one of the more radical choices to release like as a single from here, simply because there's not a lot of Paul Weller on it. The track itself is based on a song by a group called Bellbury Pulley. A song called The Willows by them, released way back like in 2004, and then like Weller sort of like you think he rewrote the lyrics or something to it. Like he's got like there's a soul singer like on it called Coltrane, like he does some vocals, and yeah, this is a real sort of like collaborative like affair. But like I said, like when it first came out, it wasn't a song like which I was too keen on. Kind of like after almost like over a year like off like no like new like Paul Weller songs, like to have like this song, it was quite like a lot of like anticipation for it, and then like where he only really sings at the chorus, it was a bit of a letdown. But on the album though, it's really changed my mind out with this song. I think it like really comes alive. I think you've got a killer chorus on it, and it's got a really strong contemporary like electronic dance sound to it, and I think like it really stands out like on an album full of let's face it, a lot more mellower like soulful tracks. Like this song like really like comes alive, I think, and yeah, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, and then the record closes with a song called Rockets, which is a nice wee closer, this one. A lot of people like reviews of that have said that this has a Bowie flavour to it, and I can definitely hear that. Kind of got similar imagery and sort of premise like to Space Oddity, but like lyrically it's a bit more political. He sings with it, the institution's old but still in control, and all the wealth is hidden. And again, it features a sort of stirring string arrangement. It really helps give the song a sense of grandeur and conclusion about it. Really like the ideal closer for the album. I mean, maybe it's not a song which I would play too much like outside of the album, but I think it works perfectly well like as the album closer there. So that one would get an 8 out of 10 from me. Okay, so overall, this album would score 89%. So I think this is again, another really solid album here from Paul Weller. It certainly continues like his streak like of like really, really, really good albums. Like he's been making like ever since like 22 Dreams, and like even like well before then, to be honest with you. I think it's a unique album in that it's sounds both very modern and contemporary, but also has a lot of old school soul touches on it as well, plus a lot of very natural like instrumentation. Like it manages like to straddle like those two like sort of like styles like very, very well. And I guess like the album does see Weller in a very happy like contented place. Like he's got a young family like he's like bringing up now. And while on the album there aren't any real true rockers like on here, like on any sort of really groundbreaking songs, like well maybe apart from like Mirrorball, like that's quite different like for like Weller, but I mean like aside from that there's nothing like what he hasn't really done before like on here. I do think that it's a consistent listen. I don't think there's a dud track like on it, and like I think like I said, like he's really keeping up like that he's really keeping up like that productive streak. He's even said that like since like we've been like in lockdown, like he's already starting to work like on like a follow-up album like which like he said might be released next year. So yeah, like we're being spoiled like as far as new music like from like Paul Weller goes. But really strong album here, and I would be interested to know what you think of it in the comments below, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.